So my family and I, we love going to the ocean. Many of you guys know my family. We have 4 kids. We have 1 on the way. So our kids are 4, 6, 9, 10. I had to look at my notes here to make sure I get that right. And when we go to the ocean, we try to go pretty regularly. When they go to the ocean, we pay really, really close attention to them and pay attention to them and try to care for them. And the reason we do that is because we know our kids and we also know the ocean. We know how the ocean works. We understand that the ocean is not a neutral thing. So to be in the ocean is to be moving. To be in the ocean is to be being taken somewhere. We've all had that experience living in Florida where you go out and you swim in the ocean and you realize that you're 50 feet downshore from where you were before. So there's this danger with the ocean and my kids being in it, and this kind of power of the ocean that we recognize and we try to be aware of as we're caring for them. But that doesn't mean that we don't go to the ocean. It just means that we recognize it and we plan accordingly. We've been going to the ocean now. We've been living here for 7 years, and so we've been going to the ocean for 7 years because we love going. And every time we go, we've been going since my oldest 2 were 3 and 2 years old, and every time we go, we're trying to form how they engage with this really powerful thing. And I think that is probably the best parallel in thinking about technology and entertainment in your home. It's thinking about it kind of like we think about the ocean. So think about this with me. When you take your kid, when they're a baby, to the ocean, you don't even let them get near the water, right? For our babies, when we take them to the ocean, they're literally strapped to you, right? So that way they will not get into the water. And then they get a little older, they're like 3, 5, 6 years old, and you'll let them go toward the ocean, but maybe they're wearing that big fat life vest that goes around the arms, and you'll maybe let them walk towards the ocean, but it's usually when they're like between 3 and 5, it's kind of one of the hardest times because you very quickly are getting up and chasing them when they start running as fast as they can to the waves. And then they get a little bit older. They're like my girl's age now. And now when we take our older girls to the ocean, it's actually a pretty chill experience. They understand what we're doing. We can sit in our chairs. We can read a book. We can engage with our friends, and we'll just be checking on them. Maybe we'll call them in to not be so deep out in the ocean. But we'll let them go out there. And then hopefully when our kids are teenagers, when they're getting a little older, we may even let them go to the ocean by themselves, depending on how much of a knucklehead they are, right? So you might let your kids go to the ocean and say, hey, remember all the things we've taught you? Hey, pay attention to whatever color flag is blowing right now and make sure that you're aware of the conditions, but you can go out there and you can have a good time with your friends. The goal is for our kids with the ocean to eventually become young adults and to become adults that understand how the ocean works, understand the dangers and the joys of it, so that way they can engage with it in a way that is safe. But it's on us as parents to train them to do that from the youngest ages up. But we have to do it. We have to do it when we live in a place like Florida. We have to make sure our kids understand that, hey, if you go out too far, you could really get sucked into the ocean and never come back. And if you use that phrase, it always sticks with them. You'll get sucked into the ocean and never come back. We gotta teach them about the dangers. And so I think that is a really helpful parallel when we start thinking about this digital world that we are in and we think about technology. But there is one key difference. The key difference is that every generation of human being that has been living close to an ocean has known about the ocean, been being trained on the ocean, and we know a lot about the way tides work because it's been passed on from generation to generation to generation. With technology, we are really the first generation of parents that is raising our kids in a fully immersive technological world. So just think about that for a second. Even those of us, most of us in this room are millennials. We remember when the internet came, right? So we are this hybrid. We remember the pre-digital world and we are fully immersed in the digital world. Our kids are fully digitized, okay? They are living in the technological world. Most of us can remember a time when we first got online. Does anybody remember this? The first time you got on the internet and you heard the dial-up sound go and it took about 17 minutes to make the page load, right? We all remember that. Most of us can remember a day when we didn't have screens around us all of the time. Most of us can remember places called Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, where you had to move around to be near a screen. You didn't have it in your pocket all the time. We are the generation of Christians that are the first ones that have to intentionally think about how are we going to disciple our children with technology? I mean, you think about the parenting conferences that were going on 40 years ago. They probably weren't having breakout sessions called technology. Maybe they would talk about movies. That might be the big thing that they talk about, or music. But they weren't talking about how do we think about screens. That would have been a foreign concept. So we won't be perfect with technology. There's a lot that our generation is figuring out, but we got to be faithful. Now let me share with you my assessment about technology and family life that comes from two sources. One is I am the parent of young kids, so I am in the trench with you, okay? So I would go to a breakout session today on technology and entertainment because it's always changing and always shifting around how to think about these things. So I get it from my own personal experience and trying to apply these things in our home. I also get this just from being a pastor. So I'm talking with parents all the time about digital technology and what to do. And my take is that most parents are concerned about entertainment and technology. They're very almost uptight, thinking about like, how much should I let my kids engage with this? How much is too much? But also, I don't want them to live under a rock. When should we introduce smartphones? How do we think about streaming platforms? How do we think about video games? What should we do with all of this stuff? I regularly am talking to parents about tablets and social media and streaming and online bullying and pornography. I'm talking with parents who are feeling overwhelmed by this, and they want to be faithful about how to use these technologies in a way that is biblically faithful. I'm regularly thinking about these things as well. So what I want to do is I want to share with you biblical wisdom that we will find in Scripture about how to think about technology and entertainment in the home that we've been seeking to apply in the Harmon home and have been trying to apply since we started having children. And then also what I'm seeing to be really important and relevant from Scripture as I'm having conversations with parents who are even really walking with older kids and teenagers. So I see trends and I see patterns in the shepherding that I'm doing in my home, what I see in the Scriptures, and the shepherding that I'm seeing needing to happen in the homes of the other families in our church. And so what I want to do, and the way I've structured this, is I've created a list of do's and don'ts, okay? Just to try to be maximally effective, I'm giving you a list of do's and don'ts with technology that I hope will be helpful for you and your family and your home. So what I've got is I've got 3 don'ts and I've got 5 do's in an effort to be more positive than negative, okay? 3 don'ts, 5 do's, and then I'll be done. And we can talk and we can answer questions and have a conversation about these things together. And I really would love to be hearing from you at the end of this time. So let's start with the don'ts and then we'll move to the do's. Okay, so the first don't is don't deceive yourself about technology or your child. Don't deceive yourself about technology or your child. Here's my observation. My observation is that parents who are under the age of 40 are more sensitive to technology than parents who are above the age of 40. That's totally anecdotal, but I think I could probably prove it if you challenged me on it. That means most of us in this room are far more sensitive to technology than our parents were sensitive with us when we were engaging with technology. I still laugh today about the stuff that my mom and dad let me do on the computer. God spared me from so much. But my mom and dad would let me get on AOL Instant Messenger and do the Find a Friend feature. Do you guys remember this? Find a Friend. And I would just talk to random people online on like a chat. And I would be like, hey, Mom, I'm talking to this 21-year-old guy who lives in Florida. I was in Ohio. And she's like, that's great, honey. But seriously, it's so stressful to think about. So all that to say, it's different. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of time overviewing all of the statistics that I think probably you guys know about. You guys probably know that technology is changing a generation. My primary concern for our parents is that you just recognize that the technology that our kids are engaging with is seeking to form them and disciple them, and to not be deceived about that. Just to know that it's all formative. So every show, every game, everything our kids do online, there is a formative effect in the way that they are seeing and thinking about the world, and it's never neutral. So let's look at Romans chapter 12, verse 2. I'm just gonna have all the passages I'm gonna look at on the screen here, but it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. The thing that I always think is so fascinating about Romans 12:2 is that Paul has an assumption that the world is always trying to form you, right? The assumption here is that the world does a conforming work. So all of the levers that the world pulls in your life, it's seeking to shape you and it's seeking to form you. And so we have to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. So don't be deceived about technology. Technology tries to conform you and conform your kids. But the second part of this is to not be deceived about your children. Here's one of the things I have noticed, even in my own heart and in the hearts of parents, is that we look out on the technological world and we see that it really is trying to conform my kids. But then we think, my kids, though, would never get caught up in all of that. My kids just wouldn't. I know my kids, I know their precious heart, and I know that they would not get all caught up in some of the really bad aspects of the online world. Well, just think about this for a second. Here are just a couple of stats. One study showed that 54% of teenagers saw pornographic content by the age of 13, and 15% say they were as young as 10 years old the first time they saw porn online. So here's the reality. If your child or your teenager has unmonitored access to the internet or social media, it is safe to assume that they are seeing things that you do not want them to see. That's safe. So if they have unmonitored, unhindered access to online content, they are seeing things that you don't want them to see, and maybe they don't even want to see. But that's the way the online world works. Again, more important than any of those statistics I just read to you is what the scriptures teach. The scriptures have already been teaching that our children are not as awesome as we think that our children are. So Proverbs 22:15, right? Folly is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline drives it far from him. Ephesians 6:4. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. What do these passages assume about our kids? It assumes that our kids are fools, right? Our kids are foolish. They don't know what's good for them, and so what they need is discipline. It assumes that our kids need instruction. And so when you combine those two realities with the nature of our technological world, not going to be deceived about this technological world, it's trying to conform me, not going to be deceived about my kids, by nature they are fools, by nature they need instruction. When those things are in our hearts and they are things that we believe, it will mean that we will be proactive with our kids in tech, okay? We will be proactive with our kids and entertainment. It is just like the ocean. So don't be deceived about technology. Don't be deceived about your kids. They need proactive discipleship. They need parents that are sitting in a room like this thinking about it, sharing ideas with each other. How's it going? Who are even making mistakes and making adjustments and course correcting like the Harmons do all the time with technology in our home. Here's the second don't. Don't surrender your God-given role as a parent with technology and with entertainment. Okay, I'm gonna say something very simple, very, very simple. But I find that it is something that parents, especially parents of young children and parents of teenagers, including me, what we often forget, and we just need to be reminded of it. We need to receive it. We need to believe it all over again as we get ready to go back into our homes with our kids. This is the profound truth that I want to share with you. Here it is. You are the authority over your children. That's it. It's the revolutionary truth. Like you are the authority over your children. You are in charge. Your kids are not in charge. I have to remind my kids of this all the time because they forget, like every single day. Every day I'm like, hey, are you in charge? No, you're not in charge. I'm in charge. Sometimes me and my wife have to remind each other, like, we're in charge, right? Yeah, we're in charge. We're in charge. Say that to our kids. So we set the rules with our kids. We decide under God what they are required to do. So Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1-3. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. This is a command to kids, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise, that it may go well with you and that you may live long in the land. Parents, you can't surrender your God-given role with your kids with technology. And I say this because I regularly hear parents talk about how complicated it is for them to set limits on their kids with technology. At young ages, their kids are getting upset with them when they take screen time away. Have you guys ever had this happen before? You end a show with your kids and they kind of freak out on you. It's okay, this is a safe place. I'm raising my hand right now, right? They get upset. What are you doing? Like, what? Why? They like have a tantrum because the show stopped or the game stopped or the movie stopped or whatever. And we don't like that as parents. Or we talk about how our kids don't know how to act in public without a screen in front of them. And we talk about with teenagers, it's really complicated to walk back some of the things that have happened with my kids and their smartphone. How could I ever change? And I just want to say this with all of humility to parents who talk about how complicated this is. Here's what I want to say. It's not complicated. It's just hard. It's not complicated, actually. It's not complicated. It's just really, really hard to start setting limits, to pull back, to even say to your kids like, hey, mom and dad have made a mistake here. We've let you guys have way too much access to the screen. We're gonna actually pull back now. We're gonna make a change. I'm telling you, I'm teaching a session on this. We have done this multiple times in our home with our kids. Hey guys, mom and dad have not done the right thing here. We're gonna pull this back now and we're gonna go in this direction instead. That's not complicated. That's just really hard to do because it requires changes from everyone. We all need to be honest here that we're in charge of our homes. We have authority. We just don't wield the authority in a way that only leads to comfortable things for us, but also leads to hard things for us. And that's often what happens here in our relationship with our kids. We often don't want the confrontation. We don't want our kids to grow up and hate us. We are afraid that they would think that we're overly strict or something like that. But what God calls us to do in these passages is to wield our authority in a way that's for the loving good of your child. You want to bless them. You want to help them. It's not based on you getting your way. It's I want to glorify God in the way that I'm shepherding and teaching my children and the limits that I set in my home. So we do this in other areas of their life. We talk about, hey, we're not going to hang out with those friends, or hey, you can't ride your bike all the way over there. We're just saying we're going to do the same thing with technology. But authority isn't the only role that we have. So look at Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4, the passage right underneath 1-3. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Provoke here, this word that Paul's using, is a word that means using your authority in an unfair way, using your authority in an unjust or severe or domineering or harsh or humiliating way for your kids. So there is a way to use your authority in the home with technology in a way that would provoke your kids to anger. And it provokes your kids to anger when you require things of them with technology that you yourself don't do, right? So when you're requiring discipline and self-control with your kids in technology, and then they see that mom and dad have no discipline and self-control with their technology, we provoke them. And this passage says, no, don't do that. Bring them up. It involves discipline and instruction. So yes, discipline involves the punitive side of parenting, but it also is this holistic term of training and coaching with our kids. We're trying to rear them in maturity with the way that they use technology and entertainment. We want to show them, watch us as we deal with our smartphones. Watch us as we watch TV. Watch us as we engage with the culture and the world, and follow us as parents, and then it involves instruction. This means talking to your kids about what you are watching and talking to your kids about how you watch it and not abdicating your role. So these first two don'ts are really crucial in understanding the rest of what I'm about to say, okay? We'll get more practical as we go. And it leads to the last don't before we get to the do's. The last don't is don't give privacy with technology, with your kids. So I've read numerous books on technology in the home, technology and parenting, just technology in general, secular, Christian, and I can't find one technological expert that recommends letting children of any age have privacy with technology. It's like rule number one in every book. It's like rule number, do not let your kids have privacy with technology. Do not let your kids have technology in their bedrooms with the doors closed. This is downstream from these first two don'ts that I have already shared with you. When you're not deceived about what happens in the online world, and when you aren't deceived about your kids, and when you don't abdicate from your role of parental authority, it typically follows, when you're awake to all of those things, that you're just not going to allow your kids to have private access to technology by themselves. What it does is it puts your kids in the ocean without a life jacket. That's how you should think about it. They might be able to tread water for a little bit, but eventually they're going to start getting taken somewhere, right? They're going to start going somewhere because you're not with them, because you're not watching them, because you've not trained them on how to use this technology. Eventually, we want our children to become adults that are mature and can handle technology on their own, but not yet. They're in your home so that you would be training them. And this is a huge part of our discipleship with them in our technological world. Okay, those are the don'ts, okay? Those are the three don'ts. And now I want to move to give you the positive vision of what I think it looks like to think about technology and entertainment in the home. So here are the 5 do's. Number 1, do engage in discipleship with technology. I, as you can tell by the length of my beard, am not Amish. I am not a Mennonite. I do not believe that technology is always wrong and evil. I am teaching from an iPad. I have slides projected from an Apple computer while wearing my Apple Watch. I am fine with technology, okay? We have TVs in our home. We have streaming services in our home. I am not against technology. Here's also something I want to say. For those of us who are more conservative, for those of us who are more fearful, for those of us who are really, really, really scared of the technological world, here's what you need to know. The digital ship has sailed, okay? It's over. We live in the digital world now, okay? This is the way it is. The way things are the way things are in our culture. We live in a digital world. Our kids are growing up in a digital world. We can wish it were different. We really can. But very few people can go and live on a compound with no technology, okay? Very few people can do that. What it is up to us to do is to give our kids a biblical worldview on how to engage with technology, and that starts at the youngest ages. This means that we should be engaging with our kids on the topic of technology and engaging with our kids inside of technology together. I'm a firm believer in this, that when our kids are engaging with tech, we also are seeking to engage with them as well. So let me tell you about the way that I've thought about this and the way I've taught on this and the way we try to do this in my house based on a really famous discipleship passage in Deuteronomy chapter 6. I call this the 3 C's of engaging with technology and your children that I think applies to all ages. So the first C with technology is company. Company. So let me read to you this famous passage. Many of you will know this. It's a very famous parenting passage. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words I have commanded you today shall be on your heart. Now pay attention to the parenting language. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. So we're going to get the first 2 C's from this passage of Scripture. The first thing I want you to notice in this text is the assumption that parents are very present with their kids. They're keeping company with their children. They are walking together, they're talking together, they're lying down and rising together. And as that is happening, you are teaching them the Word of God, presumably applying the Word of God to whatever it is that you are doing. You're keeping company with your kids. This is the first way I want to encourage you to engage in discipleship with technology, with your children, by being present with them. By being present with them while they're engaging with technology. Now, I'm not saying that you can never put a movie on for your kids and let them watch it, a movie that you know and have already engaged with. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that if the only way your kids engage with technology is when you are not there, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You should be with your kids, watch shows with them, watch movies with them. If they're older and they have a phone, be on text threads with them. Talk with them. Cultivate a relationship with your kids where they show you what they are looking at online, things that they're interested in, videos that they saw, things that they're even nervous about. We actually do this right now with our older girls. We do this right now with them. So my wife, Taylor, is a master curator of funny videos on social media. And so she will often show me the funny videos that she's collected online. And we will invite our girls in to watch those with us. Why? Why are we doing that? Well, it's fun and funny. That's one of the primary reasons. But one of the other things is we want to show our girls that we're about this with you. We are inside of technology with you, and we want you to do this with us one day. When you have a phone, we want to be in your digital space. We want to be in your digital world. Don't let your kids' memories be that they spent more time with screens than they did with you. And then don't let your kids' memories be that the only time we were on a screen was when we weren't with mom and dad. Second is conversation. Conversation. If you look at this Deuteronomy 6 passage again, the whole premise is talking. The whole premise is talking. You're talking while you are doing things. So this is where we are in parenting right now. We're engaging with our kids in entertainment and technology and talking about everything that we are engaging with. I'll tell you a story of this. A while back, we were having a family movie night. And I don't remember what we were watching. It was an overall wholesome movie, but there was a moment in which a man and a woman who were not married, scandal of scandals, were not married, and they kissed each other for like 3 seconds, okay? So this happens on the movie. And my older girls were like, we're sitting over here, they're watching it, and they're like watching us, like kind of freaking out, blushing, covering their eyes, but my girls, they'll cover their eyes when someone kisses, but they always leave one finger open, to see what's actually going on. It's very funny. And they're bashful, but also a little giggly about what's happening on the screen. And we saw that, my wife and I, as a really wonderful opportunity to help them to know how to think about God's design for marriage and romance. We did not lecture them. We didn't pause it, slam the remote down and say, can you believe this filth on the screen? No, we just said, hey, that's not God's design. That's not God's, they're not married to each other. They're not supposed to be doing that, are they? Do you see what we're doing? We're just trying to shape. We're trying to just shape in the moment. Yes, we saw that. We did see that together. We were with you in that moment. We saw this as an opportunity. This is a big win, though, in our home. The big win for us is not necessarily the content of what we said, although that is a win. The big win is that we were there when it happened, and we said stuff about it, and we talked to them about it. And they know mom and dad are with us, even in these giggly, embarrassing kind of moments that are a little bit thrilling and a little bit forbidden. We're right here with them in it. We haven't banished tech in our home, but we're engaging with them in it. And then finally, the one that's most known to most parents is curation. We can't forget about this. This is the obvious reality with tech. Most parents think of when they're thinking about managing it. So you're thinking about curating technology. This is very important. It means that we get to decide in our home what we have access to and what we don't have access to. We are in charge. See my previous point. We decide the movies that our kids watch, the shows, the devices, the time lengths, the types of things that they see. And as they get older, that means making decisions about social media and smartphones and when people in our home get access to those things. Our kids all the time, they ask us, our older ones, they're like, when would we get a phone? And we just say, when you're ready. And you're not. That's what we always say. You're not. When you're ready, when you're mature enough, when mom and dad, because one of our kids might be 16 and ready, and our other one is 16 and not, right? So we just say, when you're mature enough, when mom and dad trust you, that you can have this kind of technology, and we'll talk more about that here in just a few minutes. This also means that you should, as a parent, make yourself familiar with tools with your kids in your home that can control Wi-Fi and control data. I won't go into all those practical details now, but there's lots of resources out there for parents in your home where you can press a button and shut down internet access in your home in a moment. You can do that. It's true. And your kids won't have the ability to get online. So there's a curating responsibility that we have as parents. The second do is do stair-step technology. Stair-step technology. I am getting this term from an author that you should be familiar with on this topic. His name is Tony Reinke. Tony Reinke. Tony Reinke has written several different books on technology. He's probably one of the foremost kind of writers in the Christian world on this. He's written a book called 12 Ways Your Phone is Changing You. He's written a book called God, Technology, and the Christian Life, which is a way deeper dive into artificial intelligence and all these different things. But then he wrote this really helpful article that I'll commend to you that I would have you read. You can just Google it online, Tony Reinke, and the article is called 12 Tips for Parenting in a Digital Age. 12 Tips for Parenting in a Digital Age. And this is one of his recommendations, stair-stepping. What he means is don't give your kids technology all at once. Don't give them technology all at once. And he is speaking here as a parent with teenagers thinking about smartphones, kind of what he would call the peak of technological access for a young person. So he lays out several steps. He says, you might start first with a kid using a tablet when they're 4 or 5 years old to play some educational games. That's step one. Then you might have a family computer or a laptop where they get to write some school projects and do some things on the laptop. Then they might have a controlled phone that's highly limited when they get into the early teenage years. And then maybe at 15 or 16, you allow them to connect with a few friends, limited on social media in some way. And then he would say, the pinnacle is when you give your kid a smartphone. And he says like 16, 17, 18 years old when they need it. And then here's the quote I want to give you guys. I don't have it on the screen, but I'll just read it to you. He says, here's the quote: "The advantages to this method are twofold. Number one, you can accordion out the steps as needed while also showing your child where the smartphone fits into a digital trajectory that you've set for him. As he proves reliable and wise on Wi-Fi in the home, he is stepping toward mobile outside the home. It shows him that being faithful in small things leads to faithfulness in big things. Second, it also reminds parents that once you give a child a smartphone with a mobile data plan, this is super important, listen to this. Once you give your child a smartphone with a mobile data plan, you move from having strong parental control over your child's internet experience to virtually having none. You can draw a bold black line between all the steps: Wi-Fi at home, then smartphone at the highest level, mobile web everywhere. That is a graduation, a major transition. So he's saying once you get the data plan individually, you've lost control as a parent. You got to make sure your kids are ready for that. Stair-step technology. The third do, so there's some stair steps and some technology. Sorry I didn't give that wonderful visual illustration to you. Number three, do use technology to bring your family together. I find that in our fear of technology, we forget that this can actually be a benefit to us, okay? So for example, like I know families that have like a family board game night, right? You might play cards or play Ticket to Ride or play Settlers or something like that. And then I also know families that have like family Mario Kart night, and it has the exact same function for them, right? So you can use, or a family movie night, you can use technology to bring your family together. God's design for your family is to be a place where the gospel is displayed in your marriage, where your children are trained and discipled in the word. That's Ephesians 5 and 6. And God wants you to, I think, to use technology in this way. Let me give you a visual illustration. I won't have time to unpack all of this. I've done a ton of teaching on this topic, but I'm just trying to give you a bunch of different resources in this session. Let me give you what I call the triangle of evaluation with technology. So at the top, this is the way we should use technology as Christians. At the top, it's for the glory of God, right? That's the main point. And I think the main two ways that Christians should think about technology is we should receive it as a gift, not as a god, which is what it is for a lot of people. We should receive it as a gift. There's tons of benefits that we benefit from with technology, of everything from x-rays to the fact that we can bring our family together with a movie. And then you can do good with technology. I mean, you think about the fact that you can send a text message out with a prayer request to like 20 people at one time. That's a benefit, and that's a way to do good. One of the ways that you can receive technology as a gift is to do time together as a family with technology, and not just use technology as a babysitter for your kids, but to use it as something that can bring you together in relationships. Do not leave everybody in their own space with tech. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that we make. Everybody goes into our own spaces and we do our own technological things. You're missing the family time. You're missing the ways that you can be together. Number four, do expect pushback and questions. If you do all this stuff, you are going to receive pushback and questions. You are going to receive pushback from the world. If you have any sort of serious biblical worldview with technology, here's why. Your kids are going to feel different because there will be shows they haven't watched, there will be movies they haven't seen, there will be new albums that they are not listening to. They will not get a phone when their other friends have phones, and they will. There'll just be moments when they feel lonely, when they feel a little alienated. You might feel alienated as a parent when you're in a group of parents and they're all talking about certain things together, like, yeah, we just don't do that. And they're like, that's so weird that you don't do that. And you might feel strange. It's a hard place to be. And my point to you is to not feel surprised by that, to not be surprised by that. The Bible assumes that there's going to be many areas in our life where you're just going to feel the sting of being different. You're going to stick out. You're gonna appear strange to people if you're following Christ. One of the primary places that's going to show up is in your family life. We have this conversation. We've been having this conversation with our oldest girls for a long time now, and we talk to our younger kids about it too. Is we say, hey, one day you're gonna get older and you're gonna realize that our family is really weird. So we say to this, and our older girls are starting to wake up to this. They're like, you're gonna realize, you think this is normal, but the things that we are doing in our home are strange. They're strange to a lot of your friends. They're gonna be strange to the kids in the neighborhood. This is weird stuff that we're doing, and they're starting to realize it. And that is normal if you're a Christian. You're trying to raise a disciple of Jesus, right? So it's good for your kids to feel weird in their group of friends because they're gonna be feeling that way for the rest of their life if they're trying to be a faithful follower of Jesus. So listen to Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 and 14. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. What it means to be salty and be light, I think, is to be different and to do good. That's what it means. Be different, do good. You're going to get pushback from the world. You're also going to get pushback from your children. So listen, if you begin to walk back some of the technological freedoms maybe you have mistakenly given to your kids, I'm just telling you, I don't know about your kids, but my kids are really good at giving pushback. I don't like that. I don't want to do that. You will get pushback. Remember, we are creatures, God made us this way, that live out of our habits. And habits die hard, don't they? Don't they die hard in your life? So if your kid has cultivated a habit with tech, you should just know, I'm gonna get pushback. It's gonna be hard for several weeks as we're breaking habits in our home. It'll be hard for you too, as a parent, and you're gonna be on that journey with them. Finally, do regularly evaluate biblically. Let me put this triangle on the screen again. I want you to think about this, and I'm ending here, and we'll have 15 minutes to talk. I think one of the best pieces of advice I could give you with technology is to regularly evaluate it, because technology is always changing, and your kids are always changing, okay? And so you're gonna make different decisions at different times. And one of the most important things I could tell you to do is to regularly, as a couple, sync up on how things are going with tech in the family and entertainment. There will be times and seasons where you say, you know what, we've gone too far with tech, we need to bring it back. That's okay. You're making adjustments. You're seeking to be faithful to the Lord. There will be times when one child, as your kids get older, demonstrates a lot of maturity, and you may give them a little bit more freedom with technology. Whatever it is, my encouragement to you is to have a proactive, discipleship-oriented, Bible-thinking way of dealing with this and to be evaluating it. So let me just give you 3 questions to evaluate your technological use as a family. So first, is technology a gift bringing us together or a God separating us? These are just discussion questions that you can have with your spouse in your home. What do we think? What's our measure? Like, how do we decide, is this something bringing us together, or is it ultimately something that's separating us? The second one, I'll leave this on the screen if you want to take a picture of it too. Is technology an opportunity for me to disciple my children, or is technology discipling my children? We got to be honest about this. Is it a tool that I'm using to disciple my kids, or is technology itself the force that's discipling my kids? And then finally, what changes do we need to make practically to honor God and how we are using technology? I think if you took these and, on the drive home today or just over the next several weeks, you're just thinking about these questions. Let's talk about it together. Let's think about how this is going in our family, and let these be ways that you evaluate your use of technology. I think it will really, really benefit you. Okay, well, I'll stop, and you guys are in charge. So we can ask questions, we can discuss things together. or you can have a 30-minute break. You guys get to decide what you want to do right now. What questions are there? What comments do you have? What ideas or things that you want to share, or biblical truths that have been helpful to you and your family? Yeah.
I work in tech, so I kind of live on the bubble of the other side.
Yeah.
Like, instead of being, too little tech, I'm on a screen all day long. So I tend to be more optimistic, but I also know that I had way too much access when I was younger. I know that you didn't say anything about like screen limit times, something like that, and so heartedly. What ideas or thoughts do you have on that? How do you run that in your home?
Great. So the question is, what thoughts do you have about limiting screen time? What recommendations would you have about that? So currently, I'll just tell you in the Harmon home where we're at. Currently, we don't have okay, every day you get an hour, or every day you get 30 minutes, or something like that. We have an internal metric that we use. So what we do is we like to make it so that our kids don't have any set expectation. That's how we do it. So when our kids are every day asking to watch TV, we always know we're pulling back. And we're like, oh, we're not watching TV anymore. We'll say that to our kids. And we're like, what? And we're like, why? What are we going to do? And we're like, well, we'll do that again when you stop asking. That's honestly, and it's been actually in the young years, that's been a really effective metric. So our kids will have seasons where the only time they will have watched TV is on a Thursday night, which is usually the Harmon family movie night. Okay, so and sometimes it's you only watch TV during that time. Sometimes it's like there's a show that we trust that we let our kids watch for an hour in the afternoon, and they get to do that 4 days in a row. The main thing that we've sought to do is for them to know the only way we get to do this is if our mom and dad are in control and grant us access to do it. Different people do different things, and I think it comes from the same principle, which is to say that we are the authority in our home, and we set the standard and the limits, right? I think the main thing for parents is that it's not automated. So my kid doesn't just turn on the TV anytime they want to. I think I've crossed a line. My kids think they're in charge with tech. My kid has unhindered access to a screen all the time. Anytime they want, my kids have friends like this. We have friends in our neighborhood like this, that anytime they want their iPad and YouTube, they get it. They don't even have to ask the question. So more than setting a specific time limit, I'm not going to be prescriptive there. What my primary concern is do your kids understand that I don't have free access to this, and it's in the control of my parents? And then for parents, do we together, are we in control of how we are letting our kids use it, or are we using it as a way to deliver us from some of the pressures of parenting, which is often how we're tempted to use tech? Yeah.
I've recently enjoyed putting our home videos and casting it to the TV, and just letting our children just watch videos from the last few months, last few weeks, last few years, from when we were around. And I've just wondered if it would create a sense of narcissism to continue to see themselves. I have said oh, look how fun you have with daddy. You're going to have a great daddy. Or saying, oh, look at that. You remember when we had the opportunity to do that? Isn't that so good that we got this opportunity to do it? So trying to point out the good, but also just concern if that would create some type of narcissism.
Yeah. So the comment / question concern is we're using our tech to be the archive of our family history and have videos and pictures, which, by the way, this is a total aside, but have you thought about what our kids' graduation parties are going to be like? We have everything videoed and pictured. How do you make that slideshow, Remember, I feel like there's maybe 24 pictures of me before the ages of 5, There's thousands of my kids. Anyways, the concern is I'm using this to bring us together, but is this going to make my kids like proud and self-obsessed and all of that? I think you're sensitive to the right things. So I've noticed this in my kids. I don't know if your guys' kids do this, right? You like take a family picture and all your kids are like, let me see, right? Isn't that what they do? Can I see? And we all do this if we're being honest. They look at the picture and then they zoom in on their own face, right? And let's all just be honest, you do it too. Like we all do this. So here's what I would say. You're the parent, you know your kids. So if you have a legitimate concern about that, of like, my kids are really proud. They like want to look at themselves, they want to look at pictures of themselves, they want to pose and take pictures of themselves all the time. Well, you're the parent, and you guys are entrusted with the shepherding of your children. What I would say is that presents a really great opportunity for you to talk to your kids about pride and about having too high of an opinion of yourself. And to use biblical language and help them understand what's happening in their hearts. And maybe that would result in you saying, hey, we're not going to do this so much because I think we really need to remember that the world's a lot bigger. Or what we're going to do during this session is we're only going to look at pictures where we're not in them. And we're going to celebrate and learn to rejoice with other people and what they're doing. And you create an album of your cousin's vacation that they weren't a part of. And you learn. We do this with our kids all the time. We do not evenly distribute good things among our kids because we want them to learn to rejoice with those who rejoice. Just last night, one of my kids was upset on the verge of tears because they didn't get a cheese stick when their other sibling did. And I said, everything doesn't have to be the same. Everything doesn't have to be the same. You rejoice with your sister who got the 100 extra calories, you know? So, because I don't know about you, my kids are always starving, on the verge of death. That's a joke. They aren't on the verge of death, but you know what I mean. So what my encouragement to you would be is, once again, I think that presents an opportunity, right? So if you are concerned about that with your kids, you should address that with them. You should talk with them. Hey, I'm noticing that we're only paying attention to the pictures that we are in and thinking that that's the best thing. But let's remember that God wants us to love our neighbors like we love ourselves, and using biblical language to help them think through it. But I also want to say in the same breath that that's actually a really cool way to bring the family together, right? To remember a great memory and something that we did together. We do that. We create albums on our phones and we look through pictures. One of my kids and I's favorite things to do is I have like the Google Photos app, and I try to look at my memories every day because your phone keeps track of all that stuff. And they're always like, Daddy, can we look at your memories? And we were just looking the other day about like the pictures after my youngest daughter was born, because it was her birthday just last week. And I think that's a great way to bring the family together. So, what are the thoughts? Yeah.
Kind of on that same note, and then the one before, like TV privileges, so to speak, how do you practically navigate when you have an age gap between the siblings? So my boys are 3 years apart, and you want to allow your oldest, who has patiently waited for some of these privileges or these types of things, but then the younger is, well, why don't I get to do that? Or they assume, well, since he gets to do that, I should be able to do that too now. But still not continuing to, make our oldest wait. Well, you can't until he's that age or whatever. We found that like a little difficult to navigate lately, and it's like how to explain that in a way, one they both understand, but still not keeping your oldest from not being able to watch a fun movie with you that is age appropriate for him, but the youngest may be like,
totally.
Not quite yet.
Totally. We're exactly in this season of life too. We've got 10-year-old, 9-year-old, and then there's a big gap, and we have 6 and 4. And so our oldest get to stay up sometimes with us and watch things with us that we actually are intentionally introducing them to, like more complicated stories and things that we want them to talk with us about. And so every now and then, many of you guys know my kids, so Wally comes in the room, and just the sense of betrayal that he feels. Like, I cannot believe you're having fun without me, Like, how dare you? And it's like, we're watching a girly show, man. I'm not even liking this, Like, here we are. Anyway, So a couple of things that we try to talk to our kids about a lot is, number one, you have to trust us, the youngest kids. Like, you know that mommy and daddy love you, that you know that mom and dad love you, and you are not ready for this. We say that to our kids all the time. You are not ready for this. No, I am ready for this. Who knows better? You do. Okay, we need you to trust us. You have to go to bed, and they get to stay up. But we try to do this stuff in the light. Like, we're not doing secrets, because we want our kids, once again, to know everything doesn't have to be the same. Mommy and daddy are in charge. We're not perfect, but we know what's better. We know what's best for you way better than you do. And then you get an opportunity to rejoice with your sibling. So what we will do with our older kids usually is we'll let them stay up a little bit later with us, and we let them, with us, watch that new thing that we think they're ready for now, or even something that we want them to see, and then we can talk about it together. And then when the younger siblings discuss it or they observe it, we try to say, number one, you trust us, we're in charge. And that doesn't always go well. Like, this is where discipline comes in, and we have to teach and instruct and train our children that you don't get to decide what's best for you. You have to trust us. You can't rebel. You can't smart off. And then second, to say, that's coming. Like, you get to have those privileges when you're ready. But you, and in God's mysterious providence, were born after your sibling, And so that means you're younger. And so you don't get to do the same thing. That's good for everybody. It's good for your older son to know that they don't have to get held back to always be 3 years younger, and to know that they have extra responsibilities now too. And I try to point to that. It's like, hey, our older girls, to my son, they have responsibilities that you don't have yet, that you get to enjoy not having that responsibility. So they have deeper responsibilities, and with that, they could get deeper privileges. And so it can create conflict, but it's usually good conflict, because you get to teach your kids who's in charge, they can trust you, you're maturing, you're not ready, you can trust mommy and daddy to make those decisions. It's drama. So it is drama, but it's good drama to enter into. So what else? Anything else? Yeah.
Do you have any advice for a grandmother?
Mm-hmm.
I have 7 grandchildren, and the last one was autistic. And when I would bring him here at 5 years old, he just loved everything. But then he had to go back home, and there's almost no supervision. Like, he closes the door, but he's very sensitive to sin. And so he'll cry to me, and say, Mimi, I'm thinking these bad thoughts, and I know what he's saying. And I tried to help him, and we prayed together, but his parents look at me as I'm messing him up, because he's so emotional at what he's watching. So I can't have it anymore. And so I just don't know, I see where he's headed. He's very smart. He witnessed to all his siblings, and they said, you're going crazy. So, he has no support at all. And it's so sad, because he loves the Lord, he reads the Bible every day, but there's no supervision.
Yeah.
And the parents are always real stressed out.
Yeah. That's really hard, especially if you're not able to see him anymore. So obviously, this, the main thing that you have to be doing is praying. And that's also the most productive thing that you can be doing either way, is asking the Lord to fill in all the gaps and all the things that you can't do. And so we want to pray for that. With grandparents, it depends on who the parents are. If you have Christian parents that are raising the kids, then the big thing I would encourage with tech, just for the sake of those listening, is you want to get on the same page with the parents and make sure that you're on, reinforcing what they're doing at home. I think without parents, is what I would try to make your ministry as a grandparent is like an oasis of godliness for your kids. And so it's saying you have this unhindered access to tech. And what I would say is to not just make it the put off of you're not allowed to have any of that around here, but then to make it a put on of here's what we're going to do. We're going to go outside, and we're going to take a hike, and we're going to talk about the Lord, and we're going to get ice cream, and we're going to do all of these wonderful things that you could be doing instead, to try as best as you can to use your influence as a parent or as a grandparent to show them a better way. and to show them that this is God's way. Without, I think, driving a wedge as much as you can between you and their parents. You love them, speak highly of them as best as you can, that's true, and then you seek to show a better way, which is God's way. And that doesn't change the complexity of your situation because there's a limited influence, which means there has to be a lot of prayer. But it does mean that I think you can be or seek to be an oasis where the Lord is present and his word is honored. So I realized just now that I'm officially out of time and I don't know when this room needs to be used again. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pray and then I will stand up here if anybody wants to talk further individually and we can keep talking. But let me pray and then we'll be on break. Father, I pray that you would take this hour that we've had together, and I pray that you would multiply its influence and that it would bear fruit in the lives of these parents that are in this room and anybody that will listen to this in the future. I pray that it would be a great blessing. And I pray, Lord, that you just help us to be faithful to you, that really, like Marty shared earlier, that we would just be really passionate about sharing the story, about being faithful to you more than being fantastic or the thinking that we have to be the perfect parents, but that we would seek in this technological world we live in to be faithful to you, and that the memories that our kids would have would be that mom and dad were seeking to be faithful to Jesus in the way that they led us. Father, I pray that you would do this for your glory and our parenting and for the good of our kids, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, everybody.